Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the soda machine. Had a lot of requests for this video. We're going to be talking about the ice machine. I'm going to be cleaning it and pulling all the ice out of the bin for the soda machine. I'll tell you how everything works and show you what's in the cabinet below. So stay tuned so you don't miss it. All right, I got the ice machine opened up here. I'm going to start by cleaning it. We do this a few times a year, so every, say, 3 to 4 months, we give it a good cleaning. And then I have a UV light that circulates air as well to keep all the air inside clean and reduce any bacteria and that type of thing in between cleanings. Here you can see the inside of the ice machine. And right at the top here, this little pipe, that's where the air circulates around with the UV light. And we have this cover here that pops out when the ice is dispensing, and then when it's finished, it pops back like that, so that you can see the machine can tell when the ice is finished dropping and knows when to start the next cycle. We have the tray down here, and I'll take everything out and show you what it looks like once it's out. And I pulled off that front cover that pops out when the ice is dispensing down once it falls off. And you can see the grid that freezes and then it actually heats up to dispense the ice. So this right here, what happens is as the ice freezes, the water drips down over top of it, and the ice is formed because of the freezing temperatures on the grate here. This will actually come out, and once it gets to the right thickness level that's set, then it'll tell the machine that the ice is formed and made, and then the whole grate heats up, and that's how the ice falls off of the grate and falls down into the hopper down here that's in the back of the soda machine itself. So I'll go ahead and pull off this bottom piece as well, and we'll get this stuff cleaned up. Now I got all the parts cleaned by hand and reinstalled back in the machine. It's time for the cleaning process using the chemicals. So I start with this nickel safe ice machine cleaner. It's a food grade cleaner. And once this goes through and cycles through, as I'm going to show you, then I do have a second item that I put through the machine, and that is the sanitizer. So this is a sanitizing concentration that's food grade, and I'll put that through the ice machine as well. So as I'm running everything through, I'm going to empty the bin here. You can see it's not actually full. It hasn't been running for maybe 10 hours or so, 12 hours, something like that. Maybe even a little longer actually. And I'll show you how much ice is still in it at this point, and I'll show you what the process is like to clean the machine. All right, now we're going to put it in cleaning mode. And we're going to tell it to turn off when complete. So it starts by purging, and you can see there's a countdown on the screen, and it's making sure there's no water in the tray or anywhere in the machine. So it's just emptied because we had cleaned it, and it had been off for quite some time. So once it's done purging here in a few seconds, then we'll get on to the next step. So it starts to fill with water, and once it's full, it'll give us further direction. You can see the water dripping down in there. It always sprays across the top and rinses down over the grate where the ice is made. And there's a sensor at the bottom, that white tube looking thing that you can see right in this area. It has two metal prongs on the bottom that indicate when the water touches it and it's full. So you can see it tells you to add chemicals. So we have 10 minutes to add the chemicals and hit the button there. And we're going to be using this nickel safe ice machine cleaner, food grade, that I had mentioned earlier. But you can see it's nearly impossible to reach in here and pour it in. So what I do is actually just drop down the one corner to give me a little access. And I get the handy shot glass here, Brass Balls Saloon. Shout out to Ocean City, Maryland. And then I put this in behind the curtain. That was a two-handed item there. And then I pour it in. And then I put this back up, back in place. So everything's fully in place. Check that. And hit chemicals added. And now it's going to go through the washing. So during this time, I'm actually going to go ahead and empty out the ice, because you don't want the ice in there that could get chemicals on it and that type of thing. So we'll cycle through the ice and make sure that part of the machine's cleaned as well. Here you can see it's finishing up the washing, and then it goes into a rinse and flush mode. This is the last step. Once it's complete, then it will go ahead and turn off, and then I'll do the sanitizing of the ice machine. And you can see this is just finishing up right now. So once this finishes, it will turn off and we'll go ahead and do the sanitizer. And you can hear it flushing. All right, and there it finished the initial cleaning. Now we're going to go ahead and sanitize. We're going to follow very similar steps. So hit the power button and put it into a cleaning mode and hit continue. And we're going to say turn off when complete. We'll go through the same steps and I'll show you the sanitizer when it's that time. All right, it's time to add the chemicals. So again, we're going to use the sanitizing solution here and the handy dandy shot glass. So I'm going to go ahead and lower this down again, give myself some room to work with. Then I'm going to pour the sanitizer into the shot glass and pour it in. All right, got a nice shot of sanitizer here. So I'm going to go in here behind the curtain and pour it in. This is always tricky. Got to get the right spot, and then you can get it down in pretty good there. Definitely don't want to drop the shot glass and have glass in an ice machine. And that's a little slick with the sanitizer. All right, we got it back in action. We're going to go ahead and hit the chemicals added, and you can see it's going through that same washing that it did earlier. And then go through the rinse cycle and everything else that it did earlier. And once it's finished, it will turn off the machine. First thing here is clearing off the messages. So you can see it was time to clean the ice machine, sanitize the ice machine. And we're going to turn on the machine. And it will make ice now. I can go ahead and close this up. I just use a couple of our popcorn buckets to put the ice in, and then I dump it in the cooler over here. You can see how quickly it comes out here. And I just wanted to show you how much ice was in the machine. You can see it's about 1.5 of these coolers. And I want to go over here and just give you a scale of what these coolers are. You can see the vacuum and mop and the trash can to the right, just for some scale with the snacks up there as well to the right. So you can see that these are pretty large coolers, and it's about 1.5 of these. And that was with the ice hopper not being completely full because it hadn't been running for a number of hours, and we had been using it throughout the day as well. And you can see down in the hopper, this metal piece is what spins around and drops the ice through the front there. And there's a panel that opens up on that front piece. And then you're probably wondering what that hole is at the back. And that's actually the most important part of the soda. I'll show you just a little bit what I was talking about with that hole in the back being the most important part of the soda. But first, I'm going to take off the nozzles here and start cleaning the machine itself for the soda dispenser. So as I pull these off, I take a bucket of hot soapy water and put them in there after I rinse them, let them soak for a while. All right, I have all these off. I usually go ahead and wipe this, but today I have a special task. This one right here has been leaking, so I disconnected the pressure to it. I need to turn off the water and make sure that we get everything drained. I'm going to take that off and replace that valve. And here you can see the new one we bought. I think it's remanufactured actually, but like new condition. And we're going to replace the Coke Zero valve with this valve. I'm going to start here by taking off the covers, and they pop off pretty easily. They can just go down through the line, pop off each one. And these are in 2 pieces, so once in a while they pop apart. We just got to get them back together. So as you can see, I took all the covers off there, and we're ready for the next step. So this is the carbonator. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. but I'm going to disconnect the power from the carbonator and run the water out of the carbonated line. All right, now the machine is off for the cleaning for the ice machine, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the water underneath the sink. And turning off the water just involves turning off this valve. There you can see it's perpendicular now, so the water is off. I just have to drain it out. And I'm going to show you everything else in the cabinet in a little while, so don't tune out just yet so you don't miss that. But I just want to go through this part first, and then we'll address that. And I need to turn off the carbon dioxide as well, because that's actually what what provides the power for the pump. So now we can open these up since everything's out of the lines. I took off the end so I can get access to the second one that's actually our issue that was leaking, and we'll address that. So in the top, there's two of these little screws. Here's the second one. And I have to lift off this one little wedge piece that the screws go in the top of. Disconnect the wiring to the pump, not to the pump, to the valve here. And then we have to pull this out, which allows it to slide down. It has a couple of the connections for the valve in it. And then this pulls forward, and we have the valve off. And you can see it was starting to get some hard water issues from the leaking that was going on here. I'm going to start reassembling the valve. So we have this piece that slides back first. We have this bottom piece that slides up and in. Connect the power. This clips down in to hold that steady. And we have the top piece slides in. And we have our two little screws go right into that. And we're going to do the same thing with this last valve. I did put the new valve on the end here because this is the one that we use the most, so it seemed to make sense to put the new one there, and hopefully they all last at this point. And we are all reassembled here, so I'll go ahead and turn the power and water back on. Since we purged all the lines, I'm going to prime them here. Get all these covers wiped off and back on. And I'm going to skip these last two for right now because I have something special with those I need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off the nozzles and get those back on the other 6. Another important thing we're hooking up something new in particular is Brixing. So that's something you might not be familiar with. So what you actually have to do is take off this nozzle, and the carbonated water or the regular water, depending on which fountain you're using, which of the particular locations you're using, because these two have just regular water and the rest have the carbonated water. So the carbonated water comes through one location and the syrup actually comes through another location. So what you do is you take this device and you connect it into the center hole here, and then you use this to separate the carbonated water from the syrup. And I like to do a 5-to-1 ratio. This is a really important. Make sure you have the right mixture, or else you have tons of syrup or not enough syrup, that type of thing. So I'll show you what this looks like. You take this and you put the one end down in the outside, cylinder, and then you put the other part right over top, because without this, it sort of sprays everywhere. And then you press the button. And then you can see what your mixture is and see how close you are. So this is a 5-to-1 ratio here, and it looks like we're off on that one. So what you do when you're off is you take a screwdriver, and I'm going to show you on this end one right here. There's 2 little screws, so you can adjust those. This one, they're right here, right here. You adjust those until it increases or decreases. The one side is the carbonated water, and the other side is the syrup. So you play with those a little bit until you get the right mixture. And then once you do, I'll show you what that looks like. Once you get the right mixture, you take your Brixing kit and utilize it and check it. And you should be pretty close. I spilled a little bit of water in this instance, so it looks like it might be a little bit higher on the syrup, but you get the idea that you're trying to make sure it matches. And you can see the number of ounces and everything here for your measurements. But I usually just do a quick trial and error. It doesn't take too long to just play with the adjusters there and make sure you get the correct amount of syrup to carbonated water. When you're finished, you pull this off. It's a little bit messy. And then you take the cleaned dispensers here, the end connectors that distribute everything, you push that on, and then this other piece snaps up and then twists on, and then you have a good solid feel. And this was our Coke Zero, so we'll just take this and snap it back on. And just like that, we have it ready to dispense again. So I'm going to start by removing this metal panel here. And this is exactly why I was telling you that hole in the back earlier is the most important part for the soda. So you can see this big piece of foam here, and you see the lines for the soda syrups running in, and then we have the carbonated water and the plain water. I don't know which one's which, but these two right here, all going into this, looks like styrofoam. What it actually is a big piece of metal there, big metal block. It makes this thing extremely heavy, actually. So this big metal block, the lines run back and forth through it, and what happens is the ice falls down the back of the hopper and falls on top of this block. It melts, and as it does, it comes through these two tubes here, and all the water that melts away drips down in, and it keeps the soda at the perfect temperature, because it's very, very important to dispense soda at a certain temperature, or else you don't get the fizz and it just doesn't taste right. It's like flat basically if you don't do that. So there's this big piece of metal. So you're probably thinking, why would you use ice? And that's because the soda machine that we have, and a lot of the soda machines like this that are found in restaurants, don't actually have refrigerant in them. They rely only on the ice. So the ice's main job is actually to make sure that your soda comes out, perfect, not really to have ice in your cup. That's why it actually prioritizes the ice going down onto this block rather than having the ice available for your cup out of the dispenser. So it's an interesting setup and not what people usually expect when you see the ice fall down and realize that its main purpose is to make sure the soda's appropriate, not to provide you ice for your drink in the drink itself. So this is a really unique idea that they just use this metal block, but like I said, it makes it extremely heavy, pretty tough to move around. I'm also going to take off this panel, and this is just a cover for the hopper, and then we can actually take off this as well. And this is where the light's at. So you can see it's very bright. There's not a whole lot going on up here. There we go. Now that I got that off, you can probably see a little bit better. So this is just really the outline. There we go. Wanted to come back on. This is the outline of the hopper up here. You can see there's insulation, the foam insulation all the way around. There was a lot of things that needed really cleaned up here when we bought it from the Subway restaurant, because they didn't have this apart that much and cleaned. I don't think I've got a lot of the mold and such off of these locations, particularly on the foam. A lot of spots had a lot of mold on it, so it's cleaned up pretty well. Took a lot of time and effort. I'm going to reconnect the light and put the cover back on here and the cover on the hopper as well. And if you're wondering about this logo, obviously the Subway had their name there. So what we did was, when we purchased the machine, we went to a local graphics artist and said, this is generally what we want, and gave them some screenshots of, something we were looking for. And they drew that up, and then they were able to print that on just some thin vinyl here that, the light goes through so that we can see it, and it lights up when, especially when it's dark in the room. So we think that's a pretty neat setup with the our last name, the bar and theater here. Underneath the sink, you can see the hot water line goes to the sink, and then we have the cold water line, which is right here, and it splits off, and the one goes to the sink and the other one goes over towards the soda machine. And we are above the drain, so we actually used a washing machine pump here to be able to pump up into the um, septic line, the drain line from above. Here are the drain lines. The larger one is from the trough from the soda machine, and the other two are from the ice machine. So you can see up behind here, we have those two going up to the ice machine. And you might think that the line from the soda machine being in the sink, doesn't look that great. It was actually plumbed down to the rest of the lines underneath the sink, but we would have issues with it backing up. We were using just dishwasher line, and what would happen is it would clog up. So keeping it up here allows us to monitor better and clean it out, and it's a lot easier to do up here. So we prefer just have it up here and drip into the sink like this, and then it goes down the drain and gets pumped up with the washing machine pump below. The ice machine is draining right now, so you can see how this drains in here right out of this tube. And that's the rinse from the sanitizer. That's why it was a little bubbly there. We have the drain line from the soda trough. And you can see that goes right in the back, right in there, which on the front is right there. So this is just a drain that goes down in behind. Obviously, hasn't been cleaned yet today, and I've been slopping it up, so it looks pretty dirty right now, but we'll get this cleaned up as well for the drain. Coming up next, we're going to jump inside the cabinet here below, and we're going to change out one of the syrups because we're out of the lemonade that's here, and we're going to put peak tea in. So I'll show you what that process is. But I wanted to point out, this is the typical Subway stand that you would usually see. So it's usually the green on the sides. We just use some contact paper. It makes it look pretty sharp, in my opinion. You get that nice black with the stainless steel, and the stainless steel is really easy to keep clean on top. If there's any spills or anything, wipes right off. And we don't have any issues with that. So great setup here. And like I said, we're gonna jump inside. All right, here we are with the boxes, the bag and box, if you will, as they're typically referred to. And we're gonna go ahead and change this one out. I already got rid of the box, so we just have the bag from inside the box. The lemonade is actually in this like foily bag, but most of them are in just a clear plastic bag. You can see here, this is the Coke Zero. It's just clear plastic with the syrup inside. So we'll change this out and put the iced tea on. Once we're finished, we're going to go ahead and show you everything else inside, all the components inside, and tell you how it works as well. So stay tuned. So I'm going to grab the iced tea here. You can see this is Gold Peak unsweetened. We take our finger and pierce it through right here and peel that back. And you can see immediately we have the connection here. So we're going to flip this over, stick it here, take off the cap, and easy as that. Then we'll take this one and unscrew it. Take the other cap, stick it on here so we don't have a mess. Then we'll connect the Gold Peak tea. And just like that, you can see it's connected. And I'll show you what it looks like up top. So this is one of them we don't actually have a label for. So what I do is just I label over top of each other. We're going to be back to the Gold Peak unsweetened tea. And what I do now is I cycle through the rest of the lemonade that was in the line and get back to the peak tea now, just through cycling. You can see it doesn't take too long. And I'll show you that it's tea now. And you can see based on the color, we have the tea at this point. And now, for the part you've been waiting for, I'm going to show you how everything works inside the cabinet. First thing I'm going to do is pull all the soda bag and boxes out. That way we can really see everything behind them. All right, now that I have all those out, I'll show you each of the components inside. All right, I'm going to start from this side. These are our CO2 containers. So we have primary, and then I always keep a backup just to make sure that we have CO2 on hand and we don't run out. So if it goes low, we have that gauge in the back to the left you can see. If it goes low, then we go ahead and switch it out and go get that exchanged. Next, we have the carbonator. So you can see the CO2 feeds into that. And we have, it's about 100 PSI, I believe, feeding into that one. And then that carbonates the water. So you can see CO2 line comes in, one line goes there, the other line, I'll show you where that goes here in a minute. And then the carbonated water line comes out. So the carbonated water line would be this line, and that's the CO2 coming in. And then on the other side, we have fresh water coming in, and that's split off to go up to the ice machine and the freshwater intake for the soda machine as well. So we're going to follow this one. Number 5 goes up, and that connects directly into the soda machine for the carbonated water portion of the soda. And then you can see all these lines over here. Those are the syrups getting into the, being sent into the soda machine. They come over from these pumps. So these pumps are actually pressurized by the CO2, and that's how they're run. So you can see that other line goes across the top. It's pressurized in the back, right by that valve. So we have about 50 psi, I believe, on that one to run all of the pumps. So as the soda is used, the pumps run and push the additional syrup up to the soda machine. And then these are all connected back to the bag and boxes that I showed you earlier. So that's how it really works. The syrup through that side, carbonated water through that side. It all comes up into that panel for the soda machine that I showed you earlier behind the metal panel there. And then it intakes through the block of metal that's cooled and then dispenses out here using the valves. So this is where it actually combines right at the end. Through that piece is where it combines and mixes and creates soda rather than syrup and carbonated water. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you enjoyed seeing everything with the soda machine and how it works and how we use it within our home.